ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले रघुनाथ स्वामी नमो। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषण्यवादिवाश्चातिष्ठ कम करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं। हरि ओम तत्सत्। Hare Krishna. So first of all, thank you all for accommodating this changing time. I'm attending a course conducted by ISKCON, so somehow it clashes. So it's going on from yesterday up to tomorrow. So thank you for accommodating. So today we will continue our discussion on this very beautiful chapter, which is about the essence of devotional service. The chapter is formally entitled Explanation of Devotional Service by Lord Kapila, wherein, in response to his mother's request, in addition to describing the Sankhya system in conjunction with the Ashtanga Yoga, Lord Kapila is making an attempt to explain pure devotional service. Of course, he explains initially mixed devotional service, and then he explains herein pure devotional service as the topmost. So it's very simple, right? I mean, just think of it in a very simple way. You want full benefit of something, then you have to employ an undiluted, unmixed, unadulterated method. If you employ an adulterated method, then you may still get some benefit, but you may not get the complete benefit. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, as Krishna is describing complete knowledge of himself, Krishna says in the 7th chapter, I'll explain you this knowledge, both material and spiritual, having known which nothing else remains to be known. And just like the knowledge that Krishna starts explaining in the 7th chapter with respect to himself, Krishna goes into the most confidential knowledge in the 9th chapter by going deeper into Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service, as the process by which he can be known as he is. Bhaktya tu ananyaya shakya aham evam vido arjuna yatum drashtum cha tatmena praveshtum cha parantapa. Only through pure devotion, Ananya Bhakti, Kevala Bhakti, it is possible to know me as I am. If devotion is mixed, the result will also be mixed. If the devotion is pure, the result will be full and complete. It's very simple. And what is this mixture in devotion that the Lord is talking about? What is devotion mixed with? So it can be mixed with so many things. But in a very simple way, Lord Kapila explains to us that mixture here is mixed with materialistic consciousness. And typically, the easiest way to categorize materialistic consciousness is based on the three gunas. Because practically everything in the material world can be fitted into one of these three buckets: tamogun, rajogun, sattvagun. Because these things accordingly affect the pure consciousness by either pushing it into ignorance or pushing it into passionate materialistic activity for self benefit or mode of goodness towards peace and subtle material enjoyment. But for complete realization, one has to transcend material consciousness altogether. So Krishna explains, Krishna in the form of Lord Kapila explains in verses 7 onwards, and we have already discussed this in the last class, up to 11, 12. We decided it, we discussed it. The devotional service, which is done out of pride, out of envy, where one is a separatist mentality, is considered to be in ignorance. Tamogun. Everyone is continuously thinking, I am better than the others, I must crush him, I must do this, I am the better devotee. This is also the kind of devotional service which people of certain denominations do, where they think that my method of worship, my system of religion is so great that I can do great service to my God by crushing the places of worship and the devotees and the worshippers of all the other groups. This is all devotional service in Tamoguna. This is far from pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a very foolish, low-class conception. I will please God by blowing apart other people, by destroying their places of worship. It's all Tamogun worship. Then Rajogun is where the focus is one's own enjoyment, power and control. And Sattvagun is where one has at least overcome these lower tendencies, but still the focus is still about the self. The focus is about being free from material encumbrances, to be free from the contaminating influences of the material energy which cause suffering. Even though that is a noble motivation, relatively speaking, it is not transcendental because there is still material selfishness. One is still concerned with self. So even Sattva Guna is binding from a spiritual perspective, even though it is much more illuminating. It is possible to understand things as they are in the mode of goodness, but still one is tied to material nature. One is still bound by the chains. The chains may be golden instead of bronze or iron, but one is still bound. So Lord Kapila then explains pure devotional service as the desirable pure devotional service, and he begins the description of this pure devotional service in verses 11, 12, which we summarized and concluded last time, by saying that in pure devotional service, the characteristic of a person who has pure devotional service is that as soon as he hears The beautiful spiritual name, form, pastime, qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind is just attracted to it like anything. Is just feels such bliss in being absorbed in Krishna. How does one become absorbed in Krishna? By absorbing one's senses and mind in relation to Krishna. By chanting his name, by being absorbed in chanting his name, by being absorbed in hearing about him, by being absorbed in serving him, by being absorbed in taking the beautiful darshan of his deities. The mind is so naturally attracted of the pure devotee. Just as the water of the Ganges flows unimpeded towards the ocean. The Ganga flows through the Himalayas. We went a few years ago with some of our students, some of whom are here in this class. We went from the foothills of the Himalayas, from Haridwar, which are compared to the beginning of the Himalayas, which is compared to the feet of Lord Vishnu, all the way up to Badrinath, which is the highest point in the Himalayas, which is accessible for normal pilgrims. Beyond that are deep Himalayan snow-clad mountains where there is no human civilization other than the yogis who are residing in the caves deep inside the Himalayan mountains. And there you will see how Mother Ganga is flowing. Himalayan terrain is not an easy terrain to flow in through. But Ganga is so powerful in her current that no matter how big the boulders are, how big the mountains are, she manages to find her way. That is the nature of love. When attraction to the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes so strong that one just is not concerned about the nature of the obstacles. So attraction is so strong. If one is feeling such attraction towards the Lord that one is willing to overcome any obstacle just to sit and hear about the glories of the Lord, just to chant his holy names, then one should consider oneself very fortunate. That is first class determination. Why is it first class? That is pure devotion as explained by Lord Kapila, because the objective in that bhakti is not to achieve something from that bhakti. That bhakti is attractive because of the bhakti itself, which means one simply wants to be absorbed in the activities of bhakti, and that itself is seen as the goal. Correct? Yeah. I'll give you an example in the material world. When two people are in love in this material world in a romantic way, they will go through any trouble. They will fight the world just to be with each other, just to spend time with each other. Of course, that's a very perverted material reflection of this sentiment. But because unfortunately for most of us, we have no spiritual experience. So we always have to fall back to material experiences where we can relate to. So hopefully we are able to relate to this. We may not have experience of pure love, but at least we may have had some experience of this. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe in the mind, or whatever. At least some understanding of this nature of attraction. So in such an attraction, one is not so much concerned about what I will get from the other person, if it is love. But it is just the desire to be with the person, to spend time with the person, to do something for the person, and that itself becomes the source of pleasure. Isn't it? That itself becomes the source of pleasure. It is not that something else is to be achieved from that activity. And that is what pure bhakti is about. Pure bhakti is about experiencing the ecstasy of being connected to the Lord through service. And that is such a wonderful experience that the pure devotee experiences, that he's willing to fight anything, go through all kinds of challenges when that opportunity arises. The examples can be seen. We have seen this opportunity, this kind of examples many times. Even what to speak of ancient times, even in this time, this world. Now, the devotees are so attracted to Krishna that they will do anything and go through unimaginable challenges in order to be with his devotees, serve him. So many wonderful examples. From the Shastras, beautiful examples of this is the examples of the gopis who at great risk to their own reputation and fear of being rejected by their families. When Krishna played the flute at Vamsivat, they all ran to be with Krishna. They couldn't. This is exactly, they heard his flute, they heard his call. When the call of God comes, nobody can reject. I remember Radhanath Maharaj once was giving a class. We were all sitting and listening, and all of us were brahmacharis. I was also a brahmachari that time, shaven head. We had at that time given up our homes, fought with our parents, and gone through so many challenges to be in the temple. And Radha Maharaj was saying what to do. It's not that we want to give pain to anybody, but when the call of God comes, it becomes irresistible. And all the brahmacharis were crying. It was a very beautiful experience. So devotees are soft-hearted. They don't want to hurt anybody. They don't want to pain anybody. But Krishna's call is so irresistible because he's so attractive, especially for those who are approaching him without material motivation. It is irresistible. Nothing else matters. Now, these things we may talk theoretically, but at the end of the day, unless we experience the attraction, we will not be able to get some sense of it. Some sense of it, I'm saying. Of course, what to talk of the actual platform of pure love, where this attraction is fully manifested, like in the lives of the gopis of Vrindavan. Or even one level lower than that, this attraction is seen in the lives of the Dvijapatnis. We don't have time to go through that beautiful pastime, but this is the pastime where the wives of the Brahmins, the Yagic Brahmins who are engaged in performing Yajna, they come to Krishna, even though they are stopped by their husbands. I'm not going to go into details of the pastime. You can read this pastime of the Dvijapatnis or the Yagic Brahmins in the Krishna book. It's a very beautiful pastime. How their husbands, they did not recognize Krishna and offer seva to him. But the wives, they were so attracted to Krishna because of their cultivation of hearing and chanting about Krishna, that when Krishna came in that area and sent a request to them that I want some, we are all very hungry, please give us something to eat. These ladies just rushed to him with pots of food, even though their husband said, don't step out. If you step out from here, from the house, this will be the last step you're going to take out of the house because we'll never let you back in. Now, nowadays, some of the ladies may think, oh, that's such a, I do that all the time with my husband. What's the big deal? And then I come back in the house again. But this is not today's day situation. This is 5,000 years ago in a very conservative, strict Brahmanical families where it was unthinkable to do something like that. And they went. And they went with full realization that they will not be taken back. They went to, and still they went happily, and they gave the food to Krishna. Just to give that one meal to Krishna, they risked everything of their life. Just to give one meal to Krishna. And Krishna, in order to test them and to tease them a bit more, when they actually came there, Krishna told them that, oh, why are you here? You shouldn't have come like this. You should all go back. They said, no, we have given up everything and we have come to you as your servants. And we now just want to be near you and serve you. So Krishna obviously was very, very pleased by the sincerity of their devotion, the purity of their devotion, because they actually manifested, they lived this verse. So those who get the opportunity to live this verse, they are very, very fortunate. Because then you get a chance to show to Krishna that you are more important to me than anything else. I will risk my entire life for you. And when we do that, and we demonstrate that to Krishna, then Krishna brings us into his inner club of those who are his, because everybody is dear to Krishna, but especially dear devotees. Because if somebody is depending fully on Krishna, Krishna takes full charge of them. So Krishna accepted the love of the Dvija Patnis, blessed them, told them you should go back. They said, no, nobody is going to take us back. So Krishna in the Bhagavad, and this story is from the Bhagavad, will eventually come to it in the 10th canto. If by that time I'm still around on this planet, and we all are around, I don't know when the 10th canto will arrive, but hopefully in the not too distant future. Shouldn't be that long. Hopefully in a few years' time. But there's a very beautiful prayers, and yesterday Gaurang Prabhu was discussing with us the same point. He was saying how those Dvija Patnis, when they were praying like this, Krishna told them that, he said two things. Do not think that to attain me, you have to be physically next to me. That is not the point. He says you can always experience, because I am present everywhere. And I'm accessible everywhere to everyone from the innermost core of their hearts, because every soul, every living entity is eternally a part and parcel of mine. And that deep connection to me within the heart has to be established through taking full shelter of the process of hearing and chanting with full faith and devotion. That is the process of connecting to me, not just by being next to me. Very amazing insight Krishna gives into pure devotion. And this point itself, here in the teachings in the next few verses, Lord Kapila expounds on this very point. And this is a very, very deep and profound point, which can be appreciated and understood only by the pure devotees. Krishna becomes accessible. So he tells, don't worry, I will always be accessible to you. Get together, all of you, you're all devotees. Get together, chant Hare Krishna together, do Hari Katha together, eat prasad together, worship me together. Krishna tells them the same things to do as what we are discussing in our Bhagavatam class. Chant Hare Krishna, read Srimad Bhagavatam, worship him and eat Krishna prasad. You do it. But they say, no, but we cannot go back. Where are we going to go? We need a proper environment to be able to practice our devotional service. And Krishna says, don't worry about that. You have pleased me so much. I am in the heart of all living entities. If I am pleased, the whole existence is pleased. Don't worry. Just go home. It is my guarantee that your husbands and all your other family members will happily welcome you and accept you. I will take care of that problem. That you don't worry. And that is what happened. In fact, when they went back, like after Krishna's instructions, the husbands, they were lamenting so deeply because they realized how foolish they had been. They thought they were very learned Brahmins doing yajnas, but when God Himself came to them and said, "Give me some food," they said, "No, we are busy in yajna. The food is for the yajna. We can't give you food." And they started cursing themselves by saying, "We are so foolish. We're just so absorbed in rituals that we totally lost sight of the goal of all yajna, which is to please Yajneshwara, Sri Krishna, Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan, Lord Ram." And they started glorifying their wives, saying that you all are so great, that you actually understood the conclusion of the Vedas better than us. So you are to be glorified. So it's a very, very beautiful pastime. You should all please read it. There are a lot of beautiful lessons. And this pastime is probably more relevant to us at our level than going up to the level of the gopis. That is very, very far, far out. That is, you should listen and with folded hands. But these are things which we have seen in our lives. Episodes like what has happened for Dvijapatnis. These are not some things which are just some things which happened 5,000 years ago. Episodes like this, I personally know so many people who have gone through. Very similar episodes. Very similar. And invariably, all the time, this is what has happened. So I don't have so much time, otherwise, we could have discussed some episodes. But it's so beautiful. So the principles of the Bhagavata are eternal principles. What Krishna is saying are eternal principles. And we will see these principles, especially in the lives of those who are working on the platform of pure devotional service or aspiring sincerely in their heart for pure devotional service. You will see these principles coming to life again and again and again. So that is the important point here. And Lord Kapila goes on one more step to emphasize the purity of pure devotional service or the glory of pure devotional service by saying one more thing. He says, pure devotees and the attraction for pure devotion is so great, so fulfilling to the heart, that those who are pure devotees are not even interested in the four types of mukti: Salokya, Sarashti, Samipya, and Sarupya. Sometimes Sarupya is also known as Ekatva, or merging into the effulgence of the Lord. Even if these muktis are offered by the Lord, devotee is not very keen. First, I just want to spend a few minutes to try to understand what these muktis are. This is also an important part of our understanding. So, Salokya means that kind of liberation. So, all these are referring to liberated state. Means these are liberations where one has already transcended the cycle of birth and death, and one has achieved a particular kind of perfection. So, what is Salokya Mukti? Salokya means Sa Loka. Loka means planet or place. Salokya means to be on the same planet as the Lord. Means to be in Vaikuntha or Goloka, where one is there, where one can actually go and see Lord Narayan, Lord Krishna, or whichever form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can have access to that form face to face. Sarshti means to have an opulence like that of the Lord. The Vaikuntha planets, the perfected souls there. If you remember, we have discussed their opulence is like that of the Lord. They have also amazing palaces, airplanes, jewelries, all made of transcendental material. And some even get Samipya, which means they get to be close to the Lord. And some can get Sarupya. For example, in Vaikuntha planets, all the residents also have a four-armed form like Lord Narayan. In fact, very similar. We discussed this also earlier, that apart from the Srivatsa, the Kaustuba gem, the form is so similar. And probably the peacock feather, I think, if I'm not wrong. In fact, it is so similar to the form of Lord Narayan that sometimes there are pastimes where the devotee or the yogi, when they see the Vaikuntha Vishnu Dutas, they think that they are the Lord and they fall at their feet. And the Vaikuntha Dutas say, no, 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 no. I am not God. I am just servant of God. I am just come from there for a message for you. Sarupya, such an extraordinary attainment, or Sarupya to merge into the Lord's effulgence, Brahmajyoti, and temporarily extinguish a separate identity. Extinguish in the sense, remain in the feeling of oneness. One cannot actually extinguish one's spiritual identity, but remain almost like in a state of suspended animation within the feeling of that oneness and stillness of transcendental existence. So the acharyas say that those who are devotees, pure devotees, are not interested in any of them. But in general, devotees, they may sometimes accept Salokya, Sarshti, Samipya or Sarupya, but they never accept the ekatva of merging into the effulgence of the Lord, because merging into the Lord's effulgence means one loses any opportunity to render bhakti. Because if you have merged in an almost undifferentiated way, where is there a relationship between the soul and the Lord? So that kind of an approach is referred to by the acharyas like a spiritual suicide. Why spiritual suicide? Because one loses the opportunity for an active, beautiful relationship with the Lord. Now, the other four, Salokya, Sarshti, Samipya, Sarupya, those the devotees may not reject, but at least they are not against the principles of pure devotion. But those who are truly pure devotees, their exclusive focus is to serve the Lord and please the Lord. For them, they are not even concerned about these four. If these four muktis somehow help them to achieve the objective of serving the Lord and pleasing the Lord in a particular way, they'll accept it. But other than that, they're not interested in attaining anything. They are happy to be wherever is needed to be in whatever situation to please the Lord through exclusive pure devotion. We see this mood being expressed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. His Shikshashtakam very praise. न धनम न जनम न सुंदरीम कवितांबा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात भक्ति रहितु कितुई. O Lord, I do not want wealth, beautiful women, great positions. No, none of these benedictions I want. I only want one. I don't even mind being born again and again and again in this world, but I just want that in whatever birth I take, I'm exclusively focused on serving you with pure devotion. Now, why does the pure devotee, now sometimes we may think, oh, this is such a sentimental prayer. What kind of a foolish praying? You know, when I first heard this, I was thinking, why you are going so out of the way to pray for something like this? Just go to the spiritual world and have fun. What is this? I want to take birth again. And I know I was not able to appreciate this point for some time. But the secret of the understanding of this prayer, the inner spirit of this prayer, is that pure devotion is so wonderful that when the pure devotee is absorbed in pure devotional service to Krishna, he experiences Krishna and his bhakti and his presence and the ecstasy of connection with him so very deeply, in such a deeply fulfilling way, and he feels so completely satisfied with it that it doesn't really matter what the external situation and circumstances. What does this mean? If a person is fully absorbed in hearing, chanting, serving in the mood of pure devotion, then one is so united with the Lord in that state of pure devotion, in that absorption, that whether one is on earth, one is in the heavenly planets of Indraloka, or one is in hell, it doesn't matter. Because one will still be always absorbed in full ecstasy, independent of the situation. Whether one has achieved mukti or still in the cycle of life or of birth and death, it still doesn't matter. This is a very profound point and very important point to understand about pure devotion. So if you don't understand that, we will not be able to understand the prayers of these great souls. We'll sometimes think that, what are these people talking about? You're going overboard. Sometimes we think people are just going overboard. Like Kunti Maharani is praying, Vipada Santatat Shashvat Tatra Tatra Jagadguru. Oh, she's asking for obstacles more and more. She's gone overboard. They are not going overboard. They know the secret of pure devotional service. They have that depth of realization and they have that personal experience. So through their prayers, through their heart, through these shlokas, they are revealing those secrets to us, those jewels. Otherwise, how will we know? How will we even know what to aspire for? Forget about attaining it. So we must be so grateful to all these great souls for giving these far out prayers. Through them, the heart of the pure devotee is revealed. At one time, this is another story from the Bhagavad. Again, we'll discuss it another time when it comes to that. Sorry, I'm diverting, but it's just so, this point is so important and so beautiful. One very great devotee of the Lord, Chitraketu Maharaj. There was an episode, I don't want to go into the details, where as he was flying through the sky, he was passing in an assembly where Lord Shiva was there with Parvati Devi sitting on his lap, and Lord Shiva was giving a class on renunciation, and he smiled, and Parvati Devi felt offended. How come he's laughing at my husband? He wasn't actually laughing or making fun. He was just thinking, oh, Lord Shiva is so great. He can talk about renunciation as his wife is sitting on his lap. Yeah. If any of the husbands in this group, just think you're talking about renunciation and detachment and your wife is sitting on your lap as you're giving the class. Such a funny scene it will be. So he sees that and he's smiling and he's laughing, but he's laughing, glorifying Lord Shiva, thinking only Lord Shiva can do this. He's so detached and he's so transcendental. But Parvati Devi takes offense and she curses him. That I curse you to become a demon. So Chitraketu Maharaj is actually so powerful in his spiritual realization that he has the power to counteract Parvati's curse and curse her back. Actually, he doesn't make a mistake, but he's so humble that he comes down from his plane and offers obeisances at the feet of Mother Parvati. He says, I accept whatever you have cursed me. And Lord Shiva becomes so pleased by seeing that profound depth of humility and realization of Maharaj Chitraketu. He says a very beautiful verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, Maharaj Chitraketu says that actually all I want, it doesn't matter whether I become a demon or where I go, it doesn't matter. All I want is I should never forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I must be absorbed in pure devotion. So it doesn't matter what situations. I don't have a problem with that. That's what he tells Mother Parvati. And Lord Shiva glorifies him and tells Mother Parvati, so just look at this. This is the standard of the character of the pure devotees of Lord Hari. He says, Narayana para sarve nakutaschana bibhyati swarga apavarga narkeshu api tulyartha darshinaha. Just see, oh Parvati, just see the character. By saying this, actually he embarrasses Parvati, because he's basically trying to say, Parvati, just see your response and see his response. Of course, Parvati Devi is also very great. This is not meant to criticize her, but this is meant to glorify the position of pure devotees of Lord Narayan. He says, Narayana para sarve kutaschanana bibhyati. Those who are fully devoted to Lord Hari, Lord Narayan, they are not afraid of anything. They are not afraid of being anywhere. Swarga, apavarga, in this material world, in repeated birth and death. Narkeshu api, even in hell. Tulyartha darshinaha. They see it as same. Doesn't bother them. Why? Because no matter where they are fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness and pure devotional service. And in that way, through the connection of pure devotional service, even though they may not be on the same planet as Lord Hari, even though they may not have the same form as Lord Hari, they may not have the same opulence, that is not the deciding factor of their spiritual experience. Their spiritual experience comes through their being connected to the Lord always, through their pure absorption in pure devotional service. And there is no material impediment to pure devotional service. It is perfectly possible in all situations, all places, at all times. And that is the principle which is very important. And that is what actually I'm expanding on what Lord Kapila is trying to say in verse 13. That pure devotee does not accept any kind of liberation, salokya, sarshti, samipya, sarupya, ekatva, even though they are offered by the Lord, because for them that is not really what they're looking for. What are they looking for? They want to attain the highest platform of pure devotional service. Because once you attain that, you can overcome the influence of the three modes of material nature and always remain in a transcendental state no matter where one is. That is what Lord Kapila says. After having described this, Lord Kapila, in the next few verses, starts describing how such a pure devotee should live as he is living in this world and making progress towards attaining the supreme destination. So there are some very important principles, and all these principles are very relevant to us even today, because these are mentioned as principles, and these are very important for all of us to follow. So let's go through them briefly. Again, I will not discuss in great detail. There's so much to discuss. I just spent a bit more time in discussing the essence of pure devotion, because that is very important for us as students of the Bhagavat. If we do not understand this heart of the Bhagavat, then we have missed the whole point. Bhagavat is not just a book of stories. Wow, very nice. Oh, how God killed the demon. All that is nice. That is all fine. The Bhagavat has been written with this specific dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsananam satam, giving up all cheating religions, all mixed type of devotion, and aiming at the topmost. So that is why this, through the various pastimes of these great devotees, that theme will come again and again and again in the Bhagavat. Whether it is the Pandavas, whether it is Prahlad, whether it is the example of Narad Muni himself, whether it is the gopis, the Dvijapatnis, whether it is Uddhav, whether it's Akrura, whether it's Kunti, whether it's Bhishma, whether it's Vidura, and so many other great devotees, innumerable great devotees. This is the point which will come again and again. And the hankering of those who are at this topmost, who have this understanding, is that all other things I may lose. Yesterday we were discussing with Gaurang Prabhu, he was mentioning this point very beautifully. He was mentioning in the class. He was mentioning the pastime where Parikshit Maharaj At the end of the Bhagavat, now Parikshit Maharaj is such a great pure devotee. Parikshit Maharaj, at the end of the Bhagavat, prays to Shukadev Goswami with such humility, saying, I'm so grateful to you. You're just about to leave, and now, anytime that snake bird will come and bite me, according to the curse of Shringi, I do not know. Parikshit Maharaj is saying out of his humility, I do not know whether I will be able to remember the Lord at the time of my death, because that being bitten by the snake and all of that could be such a traumatic experience for me that I may struggle to remember the Lord at the time of death. Of course, he's saying out of his humility. But he says, even if I fail to remember the Lord, and even if I come back to this world, I just want your blessing that three things I should have, even if I come back into this world again. Again, see, these prayers of these great souls are revealing of what is of real value for those who are aspiring for pure devotion. He says three things. These are such jewels of revelations by these great devotees. We should latch onto these points that come from their mouth. This is the secret of the secret. Paramam guhyam, and this is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yah idam paramam guhyam mad bhakteshu abhidasyati bhakti mai param kritva mame vaishari samshaya. So difficult to get this understanding, and there is no greater service than sharing this understanding. So Parikshit Maharaj says, even if I don't go back to Godhead, please give me this blessing, three things. Even whatever life I take, I may not achieve Salukya, I may not achieve Samipya, I may not achieve Sarshti, I may not achieve Salukya, Samipya, Sarshti, Sarupya. No problem. I will take birth in the material world, again in the cycle of birth, and then no problem. But these three, please bless me. What are those three? Point number one, let me always have unflinching attraction to the lotus feet of the Lord. This the pure devotee wants, because that is his connection. And that nobody can take away from him, no matter where he is. Swarga, apavarga, narkeshu api. So point number one, unflinching attraction to the lotus feet of the Lord. Second, association of devotees. This I want. Because in the association of devotees, life becomes so wonderful, because in that association you can hear, chant, discuss about the glories. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti ritkarna rasayana katha tad joshanati apavarga vartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir dukkravishya. This is glorified again and again. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 10.10, Machchitta madagata prana bodhayantasya parasparam kathayantasya mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. My pure devotees are so happy and excited always. Because of what? Not because of latest iPhone or I got this promotion, now I will get this. No, they are experiencing such transcendental pleasure in discussing my katha in the association of pure devotees. Machchitta madagada prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam, always talking about me. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Oh, they are so satisfied and get such bliss in just being absorbed in this discussion about me. So he asked for the association of devotees. And association of devotees is not just for this. Association of devotees protects one so that one doesn't stray from the path of pure devotion. And third blessing he wants, that when I take another birth in this world, if that is what happens to me, then I also want the opportunity to share this Krishna consciousness that I have with others who are not so fortunate. Such a beautiful prayer. Parikshit Maharaj is praying. Paramhams Mahabhagavat. Three things, just quickly summarizing. Excuse me. Unflinching attraction for the lotus feet of the Lord, association of devotees, and the opportunity to share the knowledge of Krishna consciousness with others. And if you think about this a little bit more, I remember that one class where Radhanath Maharaj was giving many years ago, I don't know how many, probably 10, 15 years ago, I was sitting in that class about Maharaj Muchukunda, where he mentions essentially the same point in a different context. He says that this blessing that Muchukunda, because Muchukunda actually asked something very similar, is asking for, actually all of us have already been given that blessing and that opportunity. We have been given, may not be given the attraction immediately, but we have been given everything we need to develop that attraction. We have been given the association of devotees. We have been given the opportunity to share Krishna consciousness with others. That is what the Krishna consciousness movement is about. It is about allowing us to do these three things while we are in this world. And Parikshit Maharaj is saying, that is my ultimate desire. It's not about even going back to Godhead. Because if I am absorbed in these activities, it is as good as being in the association of the Lord. That's exactly what Krishna told the Dvijapatnis. Don't be too excited to be next to me all the time. You cannot feel my connection just by being next to me. Once Prabhupada was traveling somewhere, and he was surrounded by some of his disciples, and he was having a conversation. At that time, one mosquito was sitting on Prabhupada's body somewhere, hand or leg. He was doing what mosquitoes do. So Prabhupada pointed at that mosquito to his other disciples, and he said, do you think this mosquito is taking my association? Just because he is sitting on my body and he's so intimately connected with me that he has poked. But Prabhupada didn't say like that. I am just making it more clear. Correct? He's how more connected you can be. He has poked his, whatever you call, right? The blood sucking part of his is into the skin of Prabhupada. Prabhupada was trying to explain that taking association it is not about physical proximity. It is about understanding the heart of Krishna, heart of the Guru, and being absorbed in fulfilling that mission of the Guru. That is how the connection comes. It's not about being next to them. That is the real connectivity. And some of these thoughts that I'm mentioning you now are also resonated through this chapter in some of the later verses. So we'll come to that. So let's go through some of the principles which Lord Kapila mentions. He says, point number 1, the devotee, this pure devotee, he must execute his prescribed duties according to his varna and ashram, based on his nature. But again, with detachment, not be attached to material profit. And he should do all these duties without any excessive violence. He should be careful to not disturb others too much, to not go out of the way just to earn money and create havoc and disturbance. No. Minimum. It may not be possible to bring violence to zero. Now, violence or himsa doesn't just mean killing others or beating others or poking others. Himsa or violence has a much broader meaning. Any relationship in this material world which is not based on pure love, which practically means all of our relationships in our life as well, also has violence. Why there is violence? Because in every relationship, what do? We try to see how out of that relationship we can exploit that relationship somehow to get what we want from the other person. If we reflect deep enough, we will understand that practically all material relationships are like this. That even though we may not always be deceitful or, in that sense, but deep down, every relationship we are seeing as a way by which we can please ourselves. We are not seeing the relationship as an opportunity to serve. We are seeing the relationship as an opportunity to enjoy. That's how a husband sees a wife sees a husband, or any relationship in this world. Within all this relationship, relatively speaking, the mother's relationship with her child is relatively much more pure. Of course, within that also expectations eventually come, but relatively speaking. But this tendency to exploit and enjoy is violence, is himsa. So violence is there everywhere. But please try to minimize it. Minimize the exploitative tendency and increase the tendency of service and dedication. And as one is doing that with minimum violence, continuing to perform one's prescribed duties, continue to do your sadhana regularly, because that is how you will progress in pure devotional service. Chant your rounds regularly. Those who are serious, they are recommended to chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Worship the Lord, eat Krishna Prasad, read the Gita Bhagavat. These are all spiritual practices, and parallelly, minimize violence, do your prescribed duties with detachment. This verse is practically the summarization of what Krishna explains in the first 6 chapters of the first chapters 2, 3, 4, 5 of the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? Perform your prescribed duties with detachment, minimize your violence, and continue to perform your devotional activities, your sadhana nicely. And isn't that what we are always being taught? All that we have been discussing, isn't that essentially it? Along with that, there's a lot of emphasis in the next verse. Lord Kapila says the devotee should regularly see my murti in the temples and worship me by touching my feet and offering me various worshipful paraphernalia. He should try to develop the consciousness that he is not the enjoyer, I am the enjoyer. And he should try to see every living entity as spiritual. The sadhaka who is trying to develop pure devotional service, he should give full respect to the spiritual master. That one should see the spiritual master as directly the representative of the Supreme Lord. Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastra. Acharya Mam Vijaniyam Navamanyeta Karhichit. One should never disrespect or dishonor the spiritual master. One should see the spiritual master as my representative. So one should be very careful in dealing with one's spiritual teachers. Because the way we teach our spiritual teachers, and why I'm using the word spiritual teachers is, sometimes when we think about Guru, we only tend to think about Guru in terms of the one who initiates us. But in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, right from the beginning, the emphasis is given that Gurun, Vande Ham Shri Gurun. The word Guru is mentioned in plural. Why? Because it is not just the Diksha Guru, but all the Shiksha Gurus, those who are teaching us and guiding us on the spiritual path. They are also considered as Gurus, even though they may in various capacities be performing different aspects of helping us in our spiritual life. But one must consider one's spiritual teachers as the representatives of the Lord and accordingly treat them. In that way, one makes spiritual advancement. One should be compassionate to all those who are poor, which means those who are in a less fortunate position than oneself. So become kind to those who are inferior to you. Make friendship with those who are equal to you. Worship and honor those who are greater than you, the teachers. But as you are doing all this, these three kinds of relationships, those who are senior, equal, and junior. The same point is being emphasized in Nectar of Instruction also by Rupa Goswami. How to treat one's seniors, how to deal with equals, how to deal with juniors. But as one is doing all this, one must ensure that one follows the yama and niyama, the proper regulations and do's and don'ts according to scriptures. One must be eager to regularly hear about spiritual subject matters, and one should use whatever time one gets in chanting the holy name of the Lord. In one's behavior, one should not be duplicitous. Arjavam. Arjavam is very simple, straightforward. A devotee is not complicated, duplicitous, and one should not be envious of others. But one should always be friendly to everyone. But being friendly to everyone, again, Lord Kapila says, doesn't mean that one should associate with the wrong people. One may not be envious. One may be kind to everyone, but there are still people whose association may not be desirable because their negative qualities may rub off on us. So one should avoid the association of those who are not fixed in spiritual practices. Asat Sanga Tyaga Ei Vaishnava Achar. When one follows these principles, whatever is described, and this is the process of sadhana bhakti. He's actually summarizing within 4 or 5 verses the entire process of sadhana bhakti. It is very important for all of us and very much doable practically for all of us. He says if one follows this properly, one will become very soon completely purified from all material contamination. And how will one know one is completely purified? One will be able to experience the symptoms which I described 5-6 verses ago, which is as soon as one hears the holy name and the glories of the pastimes of the Lord being narrated, the heart will just flow in that direction. Like the Ganga flows towards the. This is a very simple way by which we can know whether we are making spiritual advancement. Is our attraction for hearing and chanting increasing as time passes? It may not be immediately like the Ganga flowing towards the ocean. That is the end game. But is it better than what it was 1 month ago? Am I feeling more excited to hear about Gita and Bhagavatam? Am I feeling more excited to chant Hare Krishna? Am I more excited to get the opportunity to serve the Lord and the devotees? Or am I feeling, oh, I already did this last week. Why again so soon again Saturday has come? Why doesn't Prabhuji give a class only once in 2 weeks? Doesn't he have anything better to do? When we start feeling, oh, I wish I can discuss this every day. Why every day? Why not both morning and evening? Why only morning and evening? Why not all the time? I want to always stay with devotees and always discuss this. Kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti. And I want to enjoy that. So that one can see when one starts developing that kind of an attraction, because when one develops that attraction by that absorption in Krishna consciousness, qualitatively the living entity becomes spiritual in nature, even though he may be in the material world. Krishna says, the last verse, and then we'll stop. Just as a chariot of air carries the aroma from its source to its destination where one can smell, similarly, one who constantly engages in pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness can understand and perceive the Paramatma who's present everywhere. Just like one can understand the presence of something just by the smell. Similarly, one who's advanced in Krishna consciousness can perceive Krishna's presence everywhere, even though he may not be able to literally see it. Because smelling one cannot see, right? But one can understand something's presence through the smell. It's a very interesting example. So similarly, one can sense the presence of the Paramatma everywhere when one becomes advanced this consciousness. So after this point, there is also some very interesting discussion on how one sees the deity of the Lord, what is the consciousness of the pure devotee as well as the not so pure devotee in terms of dealing with the deity, in terms of dealing with other devotees. So the next few verses are discussed with respect to that, and further instructions are given with respect to that. So that we will cover next time. So I'm going a bit more slower in this chapter for the simple reason that this chapter is focusing in great depth on the very important aspects of pure devotional service. These are very, very important things to understand. Because otherwise you will know all the stories in great detail, but we will miss the point. So we don't want to do that. So I'm going to take a pause here and open the floor to any questions or comments. And we hope to complete the chapter the next week. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam-C3. Hari Bol. Sorry, who's this? Yes, Prabhu, I can't hear you very well. You have to speak up a little louder.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yes. Now it's very clear. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Prabhuji, so as a sadhaka bhakta, what should be our aspiration? Do we aspire to go back to Godhead, or as we heard, like, Lord Chaitanya also praised Nadhanam Najanam na Sundarim, that verse, right? So what should be our aspiration?
We should act according to our realization, but we should know what is highest. Yeah, correct. Because if you pray Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavtat Bhakti Rahit, it will not come from your heart.
Yes.
I mean, you should know, isn't it? Can you actually pray like Kunti and say, "Oh, Vipada Santu Shashwat Tatra Tatra"? Let obstacles come again and again. I'm so excited. I can remember you, O Krishna. At least I can say I will not pray like that. I'm not at that level that I can pray like that. Because if Krishna actually grants us like that blessing, then we will be in a mess. We will forget Krishna rather than remembering him, because we cannot handle calamities like that, at least most of us. So we should know theoretically what is the highest, but at the same time, one should, whatever level one is, one should understand and sincerely pray from that level. So my point is that in the initial stages of Krishna consciousness, one is more thrilled by the idea of going to Golok Vrindavan and staying there with Krishna, the Gopas, Gopis, and having a good time there. Yes. And that remains the impetus for the most of the devotees for many decades, until they realize through their advancement that actually it is not that I have to be there or I have to be somewhere else. If I'm connected to the Lord in pure devotional service, then it actually doesn't matter. You understand? But if that realization is not there, if that appreciation of that principle is not there, one cannot actually pray for that from the heart. So my point is, don't be too worried about this. As long as it is within the realm of pure devotional service, it's okay. But at least philosophically, we must understand that we have to eventually come to that point of understanding that connecting to Krishna is a matter of being absorbed in serving him, no matter where we are. And that's why for pure devotees, being in Golok Vrindavan is about being in a place where one is undisturbed from disturbances, so that one can focus exclusively on serving Krishna. And it is not so much because they want to go there and enjoy being free from problem and enjoy the Chintamani, the Kalpavriksha, and all those things. Correct, Prabhu? Does it make sense?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, yes.
So we should be ourselves, but we should know what is the highest aspiration. So like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of a devotee, he prays right in Shikshashtakam itself. He's saying in the second verse, "Oh Krishna, you are so kind. All your powers are in your holy name. But I am so unfortunate. I do not have any attraction for them. Durdaiva midrusham ihajanina anurahagaha." So he's praying in our mood. Oh Krishna, you are so great. You have given everything, but I am so unfortunate. I don't have taste for your names. So we should also cry, "Oh Krishna, you have actually I can connect to you everywhere, anywhere, but I'm so unfortunate. I'm unable to connect to you through pure devotional service in the state that I am now. Please give me that facility." And actually, Krishna has given that facility. What is that facility? Chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So Krishna, so that's why we are saying, right? Krishna has already given us everything we need in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then coming through Prabhupada and all the devotees. We already have what Parikshit Maharaj is asking for. Now the question is, how seriously we are taking the opportunity that is given to us. The horse can only be taken to the water. The horse cannot be made to drink. Drinking we have to do. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, I spoke a bit beyond what you asked for, but yeah, so that we get that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you
Any
so
other
much.
questions? Okay, wonderful. So thank you all very much, and thank you for accommodating the change in schedule. So please reflect on these points and read through the Bhagavatam. So I will see you all on Wednesday. Now another course to join, and I will connect to you with you on Wednesday, where we'll continue the discussion of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.